it was a really, really just a whirlwind year. From that point on, it was, all of a sudden you're fastest in the world, and then you got to qualify for the Olympics, and then going into the Olympics as favourite in the 50, then breaking the 100 world record in the lead off of the relay, and kind of being favourite for two things, and coming away with a silver and not even a medal in the 50. So it was a bittersweet year, to be honest, from taking everything into consideration, and something that, crystal balls, and there's a lot more, I guess, a lot to it from my perspective of how it went down that way, and things I wish went differently. But the way I look at it now is I wouldn't be where I am with who I am and the kids I have, I guess, if things hadn't happened that way. So probably wouldn't be where I am back in Perth and doing what I'm doing. So I think I love what I'm doing now, and everything happens for a reason. It's hard to see it that way, but it was one of those things, and wish it went differently, but things have happened a certain way for a reason.
Mate, that's, it's kind of sad to hear you talk like that, and it's part of the thing that pisses me off about Australia, honestly. There's this pressure, and there's this expectation, and there's this feeling of failure if you don't win a gold medal. Here you are, an Olympic silver medalist, and the way that you talk about it is almost like a failure, like a complete failure. I don't know if that's true or not, but does it feel like that?
It does, but I know that's not right. And I think over the years, I think it's, it's kind of like, if you come 9th and you miss a final, you're pissed off. If you came 15th, you're never in it, right? And I guess it's that. There's a podcast I listened to called The Happiness Lab, which, funnily enough, was talking about Olympic silver medalists, and they're always the unhappiest on the podium because they're either so close to a gold that they're not happy, or they were the favourite and they've come second. But there's a small portion of people that that maybe are ranked 8th or 10th in the world. They came second and they're happy. So I think it's all perspective, and it's really hard to take perspective and your expectations out of things. And for me, the 100, I made a rookie mistake on the biggest stage in the world. I swam someone else's race. I didn't do my race plan, and I tried to swim Alain Bernard's race and try and change my race because I thought I was way better, and it just backfired big time. So instead of me going out, in a 22 low, which is kind of what my strength was, is getting out fast and kind of a decent back end and holding on, I tried to save energy for the second 50 and hammer it home, and he ended up turning in front of me, and the race was over at the 50-meter mark.
Well, I will say this, one of the most beautiful swims I've ever seen in my life, and I was there to witness this, was your relay leadoff. I mean, it didn't look like you took a hard stroke. You looked gorgeous from start to finish. But we're only talking about a 10th of a second between that, breaking the world record, and then, winning the silver medal. It's a 10th. So if you look at it, it's nothing. But in your mind, there's major mistakes in there that had huge impacts on the final outcome of the race, right?
Yeah. It was. I think I was 0.2 out slower in the 50 at the 50-meter turn, and
0.2 seems like nothing to the normal human, but 0.2 to you, who's a sprinter, who's one of the fastest swimmers in the world, is an enormous amount of time, right?
It's head to shoulder, really. It's a pretty decent margin. And by the time I hit that turn, panic sets in. You're behind. You're not where you want to be, and that's kind of like you said, the thing that as a sprinter you always try and take control of is making other people beat you, not putting in a position where you need to swim over the top of them. So being behind at the 50 and having to try and battle on that second 50 was just foreign to me. At those times, I was usually half a body length in ahead of most people, and people catching up to me with me usually touching in front. So trying to hold on and that lactate tolerance was kind of what my training was based around, and getting out fast and making people beat me. And I put myself in a position that wasn't the case, and that's where the race took a turn, and been kicking myself ever since from doing what you train a 10-year-old is swim your race plan and don't go away from it. And I did that in an Olympic final, and that's kind of what, led to the downset of my mindset. And that was kind of where I never recovered for the 50. I was, 0.6 of a second off my best. And even though I mentally wanted to get up and going, my body was just flat after that. And the race and the meet kind of ended for me, which was, really disappointing.
Well, let's dig into it a little bit. Let's be really honest with ourselves. Let's pretend no one else is listening here, even though there's thousands of people listening. But
That's it, isn't it? You just hit the 1 million mark for this.
I think so. Yeah, it's pretty close. But no, listen, seriously, the race wasn't lost at the 50. The race was lost way before that. It was either lost in the warm-up or on the way to the warm-up or in the ready room, or it was lost right behind the blocks. But it was lost before the gun went off at some point. Like what? So what's going on? Like what's going through your head? Your world record holder, your favorite. Is that replaying in your mind before the race?
No, I think I was, again, I was confident, which is great, but I was confident enough that I changed what was working for me. And I remember me and Stolly talking, going, well, I'll get out with him on my shoulder.
So right there. So you're thinking, I'll get out with him. So you're thinking, I'm going to swim his race straight away, even in the race plan.
I was comparing my race plan to where he was going to be, as opposed to just focusing on what I was going to do. So
gotcha.
It related to him, and in that mindset, I was like, well, I can, not push it as hard this first 50. And I remember it was probably at the 25-meter mark, he just dug in and went, and I was in my groove, and before I knew it, he was kind of in front, and that rattled me. And that's all it took. Simple thing. Mm-hmm. And that's probably what's the most disappointing thing for me. Not getting silver. I think if I had did my race plan and come seconds, there's nothing I could have done better.
When was that talk about the race plan? Was that after the prelim, like directly after? Was it back at the village? Was it right before the race?
I think it was before my warm up, kind of before or after my warm up, I think. And before that, we just never talked about people. It was just what I was going to do, getting out and around a 22 low, whatever it was going to be, save my legs for the last 50, whatever it was. And, I think we both kick ourselves for that conversation. It was, that's probably the only disappointment I have with that race. It's not the silver. It's not the expectations or the weight of the expectations other people had. It was I didn't swim my race, and that's the only thing you can get annoyed at as a swimmer, is if you walk away and know that you didn't try hard enough or you didn't do what you planned. You can't factor in anyone else's races. So the fact that he went 47.2, if I had have gone 47.4 but still done my race and got out in front and died in the arse, there's not much more I could have done. But the fact I swam his race was the biggest mistake he could have made, and I knew that I should have done better.
Well, listen, mate, I appreciate your honesty there, because I think it's important to pinpoint when it actually happened, because it happened. It didn't happen in the race. I know that for sure. And through my own experiences and through my own failures with some of my athletes, I know it didn't happen then. And so to pinpoint actually when it did happen, when the decision was made to swim his race, is very, very interesting. I think is very important for current athletes to understand that you can make that mistake at some point, but as soon as you make that decision to swim someone else's race, you're putting it in their hands, and you're going to create panic. Once you're in the pool yourself, you're not going to be in control.
Yeah, the first time I'd done that for a long time at the biggest stage in the world. So kind of the perfect example of what not to do when you get in that situation. That's, when we look back on when I was 18 in that the final to make the relay for the 2004 Olympics, I didn't think about anyone else. I was thinking about myself, and that's the difference. It's the biggest difference from me being able to handle that pressure as an 18-year-old to me being in a similar scenario, being 24, battling out for a gold medal. That qualifying for the Olympics was my gold medal when I was 18, and I was able to manage that. And, doing it 6 years later and thinking wiser, I made the mistake I could have made when I was 18, but just a lot further down the track.